Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
We found the Pavel Francouz poke check video. Now, if that isn't a reason to stay tuned, I really don't know what is.
Drance just hung up.
We'll present that in a second. Today's guest brought to you by Langley Chrysler. That includes Thomas Drance from The Athletic, standing by. Enjoy no-hassle 3-day returns and 30-day exchanges on all used vehicles, so you can make sure what you get is just right for you. Don't just love your car, love buying it at langleychrysler.com. Just ahead of Thomas, this is courtesy of whom? One of our great customers.
Scott in the Ridge tweeted it to you, so shockingly you didn't see it.
But this is last night he tweeted before we had the conversation today.
Yeah, because he knows your love for the poke check. Hockey Daily 365 posted the video from TNT. So here it is last night.
Yeah,
Nurse partially
in, and the left-handed poke check.
That's a good poke check, too.
It's very good, and it didn't really extend the stick there. Easy, Ryan. But kind of a different take on the poke check. But bottom line, it was a poke check. What happened to that? The art of the poke check. You don't see it. And he did that a couple of other times. That was the most spectacular example of it. But he did it a couple of other times last night. I was impressed. He got himself a shutout. Not the busiest day for him. Bottom line, 4-0. He gets the shutout. Thomas Drance joins us now from The Athletic. Thomas, thanks for doing this, sir. No Dolly today. I know you're disappointed. How are you?
Well, I'll get over my disappointment. We'll still have a good conversation. Pavel Francouz, great guy, by the way, was the goaltender for Litvinov. Litvinov's the small town where, half of the 1998 gold medal winning Czech team hails from, the Robert Long group. But Peter Nedved, go through the list of the 1998 gold medalists. They're all from Litvinov. And Francouz was the goaltender who led them to the Czech League title a few years ago. And that team, of course, is known for playing a bunch of 6-5 games, really high-octane hockey. The fans aren't even happy if you win 2-0. There needs to be goals. There needs to be offense. So this is a good series for him to come into, right? A high-event series. He looked pretty comfortable. He looked pretty aggressive there. I'm sure the fans in Litvinov would be proud of that poke check. Well,
what sticks out for you after 2 games, Thomas? Here's one thing for me is that Connor McDavid is being outplayed, statistically at the very least, by Nathan MacKinnon, but also Nazem Kadri. Your thoughts?
Well, MacKinnon and McDavid got the hard match in Colorado, right? Bednar was pretty disciplined about it in game 1. I haven't checked the game 2 head-to-head numbers, but it was something like 75% of McDavid's ice time was spent against MacKinnon. Mm-hmm. And the Avs sort of loaded up that line with a couple of really good two-way wingers, Nichushkin and Landeskog, right? So he wasn't playing with Rantanen, maybe a more offensively inclined player. He was playing with really conscientious defensive wingers, MacKinnon was. And the Avs definitely got the best of that matchup. And what happens is that you then free up Nazem Kadri to feast, and he did in a significant way in game 2. Here's the other thing standing out to me, Donnie. I think you're up to about 25 minutes of Connor McDavid head-to-head against the Taves-Makar pair, and 1 goal for Edmonton in those 25 minutes. That's going to do it. That's going to do it, because the task when you play the Oilers and when you play McDavid isn't even to play him to a draw, like the old hockey, if we play him to a draw or if we win that matchup. The test with McDavid is don't get set on fire. And they're in fact winning that matchup to this point. That sort of key matchup between the Avs best pair and the Oilers best player, and not just the Oilers best player, but the best player in the NHL right now. If that continues, this isn't going to be a long series. So Edmonton's got to figure it out.
Your Athletic article, as fine as always, one of them this week, how does Vancouver stack up with the 4 conference finalists position by position, going right through the depth chart? What was your conclusion? And without getting too technical, what was the measurement you used?
Yeah, so we use game score value added, which is the same metric that our colleague Dom Lucian uses to produce his projections. And of course, Dom Lucian's projections are the best in the business. He has what's called the lowest log loss, but basically it's more accurate than any other publicly available model. And most impressively, year over year, Donnie outperforms Vegas, outperforms the implied odds that you'll find listed on any book. So metric with proven predictive power. And, the main takeaway for us was that, at the very top end of the lineup anyway, the Canucks, by GSVA anyway, sort of have 3 elite forwards. They have an elite defenseman. They have an elite goaltender. So, at the very top end of the lineup, you'd look at this Canucks team and say what I think a lot of us have said over the years, which is that this roster has good bones. There's something here, right? There's no need to, root it out from the foundation, right? There's renovations needed, but this isn't a teardown job. And that matches what Patrick Alvin has said. That matches what Jim Rutherford has said. I think that matches common sense. Anyone watching this team can tell there's some special ingredients here in Vancouver. Where things begin to get a little dicier is when you move a little further down the lineup. Club's sort of short another really good top 6 forward relative to the teams that are still standing competing for the Stanley Cup. They're certainly in need of better bottom 6 center depth. Definitely could use an upgrade in the bottom 6 in general. And then the defense is really where the Canucks don't fall short. By GSV anyway, GSVA rates Quinn Hughes as being, relatively comparable. I mean, not quite at the level of a Hedman or a Fox or a Makar, but certainly given his age and precociousness, you could see him getting there in a relatively straightforward fashion. But it rates Oliver Ekman-Larsson as the club's only other top 4 defender. And relative to the other conference finalists, it rates him as being equivalent to like most teams' 4th guy, as opposed to their 2nd or their 3rd. So that's 2 top 4 defensemen short, plus a top 6 center, plus a top 6 forward, plus, probably a pretty high-end 3rd line center and a better bottom 6. That's not a short shopping list, even if you do conclude that the Canucks have good bones at the top end of the lineup.
Okay, so in line with that, they have to improve their lineup, and this is the first time I believe we've talked to you since this happened, but they've beefed up their development staff. Was that a no-brainer, Thomas?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of those things, Donnie, like non-cap spending, right? Spending on staff and R&D and scouting and player development, that can be a hard sell sometimes with owners, right? I mean, why would we spend $500K here when we could spend that $500K getting an additional depth guy in Abbotsford or what have you, right? But the return on investment of doing these sorts of things really well, I think it's huge. You think about all the players who've come into the league, Donnie, and been high draft picks, for example, and haven't sort of become the offensive stars that people hoped, right? But they sometimes leave an organization, go to another team. I'm thinking about a guy like Andrew Cogliano, or more recently, a guy like Curtis Lazar, BC kid, unrestricted free agent this summer. They go to other teams, they find a niche in a bottom 6 role as a high-end checker, as a high-end penalty killer. They reinvent their games and hang around and have huge impact in the NHL. Well, if you could create a development environment where you get to mine that part of a player's career, the return on investment there is massive. And in a hard-capped league, an efficiency contest league like the NHL, that's kind of everything. My other big takeaway, though, Donnie, was the Sedin Twins moving down
to the ice.
To this hybrid coaching role. I think that's a pretty significant departure. I think it does speak to sort of putting into practice some of the concerns that we've heard from management since they took over about practice habits, about structure. I think there's certainly an effort to install more of that detail-oriented, hardworking Sedin culture that, powered some of the greatest days this franchise has ever enjoyed, in a more meaningful way, closer to the team. I think that's what this move reflects, and I'm curious to see how it works for the Twins and the team.
Okay, our friend, and Ryan's going to read this, our friend who is healing right now, not here today, has texted in a question. Ryan, go ahead.
First of all, he texted it into the Delaney's OK Tire Langley inbox instead of just me. Really? And it's not even a question. This is exactly what he said. So let me try and do my Dolly here. Thomas! He says, nice. Wake up, Thomas. Panthers gave up 3 first-round picks to get swept in the second round and have a $10 million goalie they can't give up. That's what he said to me.
Yeah, well, he's not wrong. The Bobrovsky contract was a previous management mistake, but overpaying for Ben Sherratt, that looked bad the day it happened, and I never thought Claude Giroux helped that team. Like, I didn't think that he doesn't have the speed that sort of added to what the Panthers did well, in my view. He sort of had a redundant skill set on a team that already had Jonathan Huberdeau. So granted, he's righty, but especially with how the power play functioned for the Panthers. I mean, he's not wrong. Those were bad moves. Those weren't moves that I was praising at the time. Donnie.
Yeah. Yes.
Donnie, hey, but by the way, did you see that tweet about all of the Avs' great pro scouting? I almost CC'd him, but then I heard he was under the weather and I didn't want to tip him over the edge.
You know what? What he just texted in there.
That sums it up.
Well, it fell flat. It's kind of like he's still here.
It sums it up.
It's like he hasn't left the studio.
It didn't take 6 minutes for him to get to the point, though.
There you go.
Rick.
There you
Good job,
go.
buddy, bud. Feel
Perfect.
better.
That's the fastest point he's ever made on this show, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. He's improving without being here.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Always good, Thomas. Thanks so much, sir. Great article.
Thank you, gentlemen. Be well.